You know, this is actually getting ridiculous now. After I've kind of like figured out, you know, that all the election laws which were getting broken, but Ofcom didn't actually do anything about it. They fined Mogg, but then he appealed it, but they didn't even take action over the proper thing that was being done wrong, or that was the proper law that was being broken, the Representation of the People Act, right? And all those videos are still up there. Ofcom haven't taken them down, and neither have the Electoral Commission, right? I've actually complained to the Advertising Standards Authority about an advert which has really been upsetting me, causing me a lot of harm, and they haven't taken any action at all or done anything, right? These new governmental departments, right? Right? Let me just explain this, okay? So it says here, right? This is what the Good Law Project is saying, right? More than 70,000 people, right, have complained over GB News over their use of homophobic trope or whatever, basically just hateful banter or whatever, right? This week, the regulator Ofcom has actually declared the channel in breach, right? So they're actually going to do something now, right? When Ofcom didn't do something last time, they were up in front of the Department of Culture, Media and Sport Committee, getting a rollicking. But even the Department of Culture, Media and Sport Committee were not acknowledging the proper law, right? They're as bad as the Privileges Committee when the Privileges Committee are doing reports and leaving out like 6 entire acts of law, because the Privileges Committee are misleading other MPs as right? Now, this is the thing, right? Everyone's arguing about digital ID and complaining about digital ID, right? That Starmer's wanting to get through government because it's Blair's master plan, right? Mechanisms of implementation, right? The digital ID. So, no, right. Let's just kind of get this in context, right? We need to set out a model, right? A governmental model with agencies and the courts and everyone's like, you know, all these different new departments and positions, what's actually going on, right? We need like an overview, like a kind of like bird's eye view, overview, big picture view, whatever you want to call it, right? Need to explain this, right? So we're meant to, right? We're supposed to go to the court, right? You know, if anyone breaks the law, we're going to go to the court, right? Now, if anyone, if anyone causes a criminal offence against you, right, you're meant to go to the police, right? But let's start from the historic position, right? You know, from the historic view. So the historic view is that, you know, you're going about your business, right? And if someone commits an offence against you, then you could go to the sheriff and get a warrant, right? And then, you know, get them arrested. And, you know, the whole town has to try and arrest them, right? If you can't find them, they've got to, or else they have to pay a fine, right? So everyone has to try and find them, right? And then you get them locked up, and then they go like on a trial, depending whether it's petty sessions or not, or if it's the assizes, which come around like, you know, 4 times a year, or the quarter sessions, right? And then they get prosecuted, and then you pay some money to the sheriff, right? Obviously, to prosecute them. But then obviously if you win, you get it back, right? But it was like a pay per job sort of thing. But that was also the same for civil. If someone owed you some money, right, and you wanted to sue them, then you went and got a warrant, and then they got arrested unless they paid the money or went to court and proved that they didn't owe you it, right? And that's how it worked with the sheriff's office, right? Now we don't pay per job. So you go to the police station, report a crime, right? But they're meant to look into it, but they're not doing, right? They're just not doing anything in a lot of instances. So people aren't actually getting justice. And the government are always going, oh, no, yeah, we're here for justice. You know, we want more justice. We want more efficient justice. We want better justice. Absolute tosh. You know, when people are reporting crimes and the police aren't doing anything, right? So I don't know what dreamland the government are living in, right? The government are living in this sort of world where, you know, if someone touches a woman's leg, right, then they get, you know, 10 years in prison or a Facebook tweet. But, you know, if, you know, you report in, you know, stuff to the police, a lot of people, they just won't do anything, right? The police won't do anything, you know, but we're still paying for the police. So, you know, there's a very disproportionate engagement from the police at the moment, right? Now, also, you used to get a jury in a fair trial, but they're scrapping jury. They scrapped civil juries, and we had a jury for like erecting cottages or houses and stuff like that, these sizes, and you could appeal it, right? And then they started up the corporations of the towns and the cities where you had the aldermen, right? And then they started hearing it all rather than bothering having the jury, right? So it was just like basically the aldermen, right? And you have like the mayor and the alderman, and then you can have the full council, right? Like the Court of Common Council, right? Which is with all your councillors, right? And then they make decisions on the town, right, and vote on it, rather than having the assizes and a jury if you did not have a corporation under a charter in your local town, right? If you just like lived in a village or knocking around the country, right? So you actually would have a court and a jury like the assizes, yeah? Because you'd have like crimes, then they'd have like civil issues, and they'd have like, you know, matters to do with the local area as well, right? So we've been gypped off out of having a completely random panel of the local area deciding on, you know, what gets built or not, different people each time, right? Rather than now with these corporations and political parties and like your aldermen, full councillors, all like Labour and Conservative, same people getting re-elected every year, right? You get very biased decisions, right? Now, they didn't always have a jury, but you could have a jury, right? Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. It depends on what it was, right? But at these sizes, I know they did, right? And obviously, you got these King's Justices coming around the whole country, right? They're touring around different circuits, right? They're going to be out and about in different areas, right? And I think maybe there wasn't impartiality, but now what we've got is they don't want the workers making decisions, right? They don't. I don't know why they call it the Labour Party, right? They don't want like random, 12 jury of workers from the local area deciding whether or not, you know, Fox can build a new biscuit factory, right? Because they might say, no, we don't want a biscuit factory in this area because it will break the peace, right? And the public, you know, I know there's a demand for houses, right? And there's a demand for houses, right? But if the people in the area rather not have any more building, right? Because, you know, they like it as it is, then it's like self-governing. And then there's other people banging babies out, but everyone's like, no, we don't want to, you know, build here or there. Then you only build when you're absolutely desperate, right? You know, and bursting at the seams, right? You're not just doing it willy-nilly, right? And then you're doing it for what the people need, not what, you know, big, you know, factory biscuit owners want to extract money out of the area and to make themselves loads of millions, billions, zillions, trillions excess profit and knock out, you know, whatever, you know, spoons, biscuits, fucking McDonald's, all the shit we've been consuming, right? Or, you know, whatever, you know, Jeff Bezos wants a rocket ship to the fucking moon, you know, well, you know, then the villagers say, you know, maybe we want a rocket ship to the moon, you know, build it in Orkney or whatever, right? You know, you can go fucking build it somewhere else, you know, like Elon Musk out in the middle of the desert with his fucking factory churning out smog or whatever the fuck it's doing, right? So, you know, the people are in control, not like just like these big corporations who then are just like, you know, banging money on the table, banging money on the table, banging money on the table, getting all these, you know, expensive lawyers and or whatever. People just say, no, we don't want it, you know, whatever. Unless they're addicted to it, you know, but, you know, how long did heroin last when people were addicted to it? They ended up banning it, right? You know, there's a need to ban these big fucking companies, right? You know, like heroin got banned. This is the thing because, you know, it gives you a bit of bravado for a while, but then, you know, it runs out. You know, these big companies have got big balls, but, you know, they've got a lot of money, but the people are starting to get fucked off with them, right? Now, this is the thing. So that's the common law. This is what Graham Moore's talking about, the common law model of governance, right? But they got rid of all the juries, and now they're wanting to get rid of the criminal juries and have these justices deciding on everything, right? Now, this is the thing. Now, let's go back to this whole GB News thing, right? So, like, okay, GB News piss people off, right, and do something wrong. Well, what would happen back in the... Let's pretend, right, let's have it like pretend that we've got all the technology, the devices, but we're in the, like, old-fashioned legal system, right? So what would happen, right, if, let's say that we've got GB News and we've got televisions and smartphones or whatever, right, and GB News are knocking out a load of bullshit, right, and pissing people off, right? And let's say we had the old legal system, because we could, like, I can make that up now, right? We could say, okay, let's pretend that all the legal systems are the same as it was, but we got all this, like, wacky technology like we've got now, right? So then what you do is, like, you know, Patrick, whatever he's called on GB News or whoever it is, you know, Esther McVeigh or whoever it is, Mike Graham or whatever, all these presenters on GB News, Reese Mogg or whatever, like, you know, right? Now, we've got the law, right? There's the law, right? Either they break the law or they don't. And that's it, right? Now, have they broken the law? So if they break the law, then you fucking sue them, right? So you go down to the sheriff's station, right? You want some money over, you say, right, a warrant for Mike Graham, right? Go fucking arrest the cunt. So then the sheriff goes and arrests him, bangs him up, and you say, right, you know, you've been homophobic, whatever. And then the next, you know, a day later, he's in the court, whether it's the petty sessions or the assizes, quarter times a year, prosecute the cunt, right? Then he fucking goes, bangs him in prison, or he has to fine you, right? Done, right? And you get a jury, fair trial. Now, what's happening? Now, let's fast forward, right? We've got courts, we've got a justice system, and now we've got a multi-billion-pound Ofcom company that the taxpayer is paying for as well. Hey, guess what? We're paying for the courts, we're paying for the police, we're paying for the CPS. There's another big building. There's a court buildings, there's a police buildings, there's a CPS buildings. You know, there's a Royal Courts of Justice, there's a Judicial Conduct Investigation Office. You know, what haven't we got? You know, we've got everything and more, right? Everything and fucking more, right? And there's Ofcom, right? Oh, we've got a problem with Mike Graham, right? Oh, well, we'll have to get Ofcom to look into it, right? Oh, they're going to prosecute them. Well, they might give them a fine or something, right? Might give them a fine or something. Well, how could 70,000 people be wrong? 70,000 complaints later. Where the fuck's Clint Eastwood? You know, the good, the bad and the ugly. Oh, you know, it's Mike Graham. I'm not saying Mike Graham's been homophobic. This is an example, right? This is an example I'm making up, right? Oh, Mike Graham's been homophobic, right? We're going to get the fucking, you know, get down the Gumpter office, right? There you go. Just, you know, 50 quid on the table, go arrest Mike Graham. You know, this is the thing. Now, no one can get a lawyer these days and do it themselves because it costs an absolute fortune. Extract money. I mean, they're going to want to see like 5, 10 grand, you know, prosecute privately. Are the police going to arrest him? Probably not, unless it's Patrick Spence or, you know, Mike Amesbury and, you know, like they've knocked someone out or something or touched their leg. If it's sexual, you know, police like a bit of sexual. Have you seen the questionnaire form on the police thing? It's all sexual. You know, it's like the tantra. It's like looking through the tantra book, all 100 different positions, you know. When looking through the police book, you know, we know what's the agenda. You know, well, how many genders are there? Well, how many sex positions are there? You know, it's like some kind of sex fetish fucking questionnaire. You know, in fact, I'm amazed that the police aren't asking you what your favourite fucking sex position is. You know. Prefer not to answer, you know. There's a drop-down menu, you know, there's 100 different fucking positions you can choose. What's your favourite sex position? Well, I like it in handcuffs. Well, you've come to the right place, you know. This is the thing. You know, there's more selections on that menu than fucking words you can type in the reply. How did you meet this person? Well, I met them at the gym. Oh, damn, I can't type gym. I want to, you know, field 7. Where did you meet them? I met them at the oh, damn, I've run out of fucking characters now. You know, I met them at the gym. You know, where did you meet them? You know, well, fucking hell, give us half a chance to tell you. You know, I can't even fucking type 2 words in there. But on this drop-down menu, there's about 650 fucking different sex positions. You know? In fact, I won't be surprised if the police have been fucking trying out them all in the fucking cells, you know, in their fucking spare time. This is the thing, particularly if you're into kinky sex, you know. Now you're talking, you know, what's your favourite uniform? A police uniform. Well, you've come to the right place. You know, this is the thing, right? But anyway, so 70,000 people complained that 70,000 forms filled in, 70,000 times a staff member processes something, and then there's someone looking at all those before they decide whether they're going to do something or not, right? Don't worry, let the government take care of it. Well, which department of the government? We've got about 7 different fucking departments now, this is the thing, right? When the police aren't solving any crimes, there's 70,000 people complain there. What if they were crimes? Well, we're going to do something now. 70, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that if that was a burglar? We've done 70,000 burglaries, but now they're going to do something about him. They've caught him now. It took 70,000 fucking burglary complaints. This is the thing. Now, I know what's going on now, because the whole thing is like clicked with me now, right? Because I figured out, right, we're getting absolutely scammed and gypped off, completely and utterly scammed and gypped off. We've been absolutely fleeced by the legal system. They put the prices up so skyrocket high. They won't lift a finger unless you give them like £100, grand. It's all big money. It's not like, 250, some people, 300 quid, 400 quid's a week's wage, right? You must be joking with these people, right? They won't, what they're doing is they've priced themselves out of the affordability of the public, right? So they'll only take on, look for a big fat juicy member of the public who can afford, 5, 10, 20 grand, and then everyone else can fuck off, right? Someone else's problem. And that's why the rest of the people are having to go to these non-departmental government agencies, right? Because you can't get a lawyer to prosecute someone for an advertisement that's harassing you. I mean, if we go back to the 1800s, if Cadbury's of chocolate have got an advert that's harassing you, you get straight onto the fucking Gumpter's office. You got to arrest that cunt. Give me a warrant now, right? He's harassing me, right? Get into the fucking, hand over me, 10 shillings or whatever. Get him arrested. Get your Crown Prosecutor in, whatever. Oh, no, you can't do that now. Because, why? Because the solicitors want about, 50 million pound off you just to prosecute someone, right? Privately, or sue them. Right? Even, Joylan Morham, the freeman, I do it all for nothing. I'm a pro bono. We're here for anyone. Just come around as long as gender bending. As long as you can't be, you can't have the gender you were assigned with when you were born. We're just here for transgender people, right? That's a joke, by the way, Joylan. Anyway, right? So, right. So, the entire legal sector cult is, fleecing everyone. Now we've got these ridiculous, administrative, non-departmental government places. And remember, the Solicitors Regulation Authority, from what I was told by the guy who actually rung me up from there, apparently they're not even funded by the government. It's funded by the legal sector. So the legal sector are paying for their own self-governance. No wonder the Solicitors Regulation Authority are useless and actually do nothing, right? Because they're actually, the solicitors aren't going to pay and fund an authority that's going to bust them all, for being corrupt, is it? Surely, it's Debbie Rodaway, she's quite foxy, quite tidy, I don't want to do her. Well, yeah, but she broke the law, though, Well, she hasn't done it before. It's the first time, she's, you're debating with me whether or not you should, she broke the law, this is a report, right? Either you're going to take action or not. What's the point, Who are these non-departmental government bodies? This is the thing. The Electoral Commission, we've got some really serious electoral crime now. Oh no, that's not crime. Yes, it is crime. They put nupties in place, and they're all under these strict policy regime rules. There's no negotiating with them now that Baron Grade and Lord Allen of Hallam are in charge. It's all run by the book, and not the law book, the policy procedure rules, Directive 79624327, So now, So we've got all these non-departmental government agencies all in place that have popped up, right? Like the Parliamentary Health Service Ombudsman, for example, as well. Now, that's one worth talking about because that's replaced the right to petition, okay? So it's actually replaced the right to petition Parliament and about misconduct in government, right? And rather than Parliament having to deal with it in committees, you fill the complaint in, get your MP to sign it like as if you were petitioning Parliament, and then just pass it off to this Ombudsman department who sorts it all out. But then they want all your evidence and things like that, or else they're not going to do anything and they can't act and they won't do anything, right? Yet, you never, in fact, when you were petitioning Parliament, you weren't allowed to attach evidence, right? You weren't allowed to attach anything, nothing to be annexed to this petition. Petitions may not have anything annexed to them, and no evidence allowed, right? So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Now the Ombudsman won't act unless I include some evidence, right? Well, what's the point in her having been given powers? Parliament committees had powers to call for persons, documents and papers, right? That's the whole point, right? But apparently Ombudsman doesn't have the power to call for papers, documents or persons, or if she does, she ain't using it because she won't act unless you give her the evidence yourself, right? But maybe that's a problem, right? And usually you need to get hold of the evidence, right? You try to get some evidence. Or you want Parliament to use powers to get the evidence, right? Because obviously, if you've got the evidence, why do you need the powers, right? That's all the point of having the powers, so you can get like the powers of the police, right? The powers of Parliament, to get the evidence. And if I already had the evidence, why do I need the Ombudsman to help me, right? Surely, although, that's the thing, because I'm not that good in courts, so, could do with paying a lawyer, but now they're a lot of price range, right? So we're being priced out of access to civil proceedings, except if you're a poor man, you can go on like small money claim online and you can, get, 50 quid back the plumber owes you or whatever, right? But not if you want to get anything important done, right? And you can if you're in Scotland, because you've got the Scottish one, you can do all kinds of things on their simple process, right? But not in England. Anyway, so now, this is where we're talking about. So I want to talk about the digital ID model, right? Because this is important now. So the whole digital ID and this whole kind of like, so basically, right? The BBC, right, which is it's license fee funded, and they had like a board of directors, and they had the House of Lords on the trust and all that, right? So it's sort of governmental department-y sort of thing, right? It's sort of, it was like Royal Mail, it had something to do with the government, right? So the BBC decided that they were going to advertise Facebook to the world, right, for Mark Zuckerberg. He said, hey, look, Mark's got this new platform. Did you all know, everyone in England? Why don't you go on there and make a digital identity? That'd be good, wouldn't it? You can make some friends. And then everyone in England, like when everyone in England, 60 million people, said, hey, that's a good idea, BBC. Why don't we go and do that? Hey, let's go on our computer when we get home and make a digital identity. Haha, thanks, right? And then suddenly Mark looked at his bank account and it went, hey, look, yeehaw! Hey, I'm just sat at my college computer building a little computer website, and now I've got £1 zillion billion. Now I'll have to go eat some money with Donald Trump, This is the thing. So Mark Zuckerberg's bank account just went straight up through the roof, right? And see, now I'm a multi-billionaire. I'm going to build myself a fucking, bunker under the ground in case there's a nuclear war, right? Because I can do that now. BBC made me into a billionaire, right, overnight. Like that, right? You're selling crap adverts to everyone, right? That drive them fucking insane. So, joking aside, so everyone went out and made a digital ID. Hey, look, this is great. And Tony Blair was trying to get it put through the government as well. that people had to have a digital identity, but on a card, not on a computer. But little did we know that our little Nokia bricks with, basic text message function, I can send a text message in writing. Hey, this is great. Just ring people up, and little did we know that our computer that we have at home, and sort of go Bill Gates' Windows, right, soon would be in the palm of your hand. Yes, your own supercomputer. You don't have to go around to your friend's house to play on it. You can play on it at the bus station, right? You carry it around in your pocket. Hey, look, now I've got a supercomputer in my pocket with my digital identity on it with Facebook. And guess what? It's so slim and thin that it doesn't even look like a supercomputer. It looks like a credit card, but just like a big credit card. It's almost like a digital identity card. Wow, this is great. And guess what? Look, also on my digital identity card in my pocket, I've got 1 million, billion, zillion fans now. I'm a super guru. I'm like a mega celebrity. Look, I've even got a ranking. I am the second most popular person on planet Earth. Wow, this is great. I have now even got social points and I'm doing very well. I'm just closely behind Russell Brand, and now I've got social points as well, Smoke me a kipper, I'll be back to China in 10 seconds. This is the thing, right? And then wouldn't it be great if, the government had complete and total control now over tracking my supercomputer where I can go and what I'm doing as well to gather data on me. This is the thing, right? So, it all becomes clear what actually is happening and going on. Now, the thing is that, so the problem with these platforms that are on this digital supercomputer card with Facebook digital identity that we've all created, right, is this, that even though I'm in England, it's quite strange because, I'm doing things on these websites and I seem to be getting into trouble, right, here and there. And other people do. But I haven't broken the law. That's strange. Well, they seem to have a different idea of what the law is in America. Well, that's because they've got different laws, right? So the people who own the websites and the digital ID Facebook thing are working under American law, and according to American law, I don't have the legal right to have my political campaign protection, right? Which is the most protected thing that you can have in this country, because apparently in America they've got something called Section 230, which says that the government can do the platforms the platforms are the ones who have got all the immunity, not someone who's doing a very important, serious political investigation. Can you believe that? A private corporate company has got more protection themselves than someone doing a federal investigation. Well, I don't know how they do things in America, but that seems quite strange over here because that's not even the law under here, but they seem to be still enforcing it. Why? Because they've got a policy. Oh, what's that? Well, they just make their own rules up. Well, what happens if we don't agree to those rules? Well, you'll have to do, or you won't be able to use the anything. You won't be able to use anything unless you consent, submit, accept, agree, It's like consent, submit, accept, agree, concur, kneel, roll over, sit, stand up, lie down, whatever other commands, enter your favorite command here, maybe they might even start, pushing sex positions on us as well, like, hey, it's Mark Zuckerberg's new Facebook. Accept, consent, submit, and agree to sex tantra position number 14. Just imagine if that was in the police station, You went to the police station, consent, submit, accept, agree. Well, according to the Terrorism Act, you've got to consent, submit, and agree to everything the police officer says. Or that's a criminal offence. Do whatever the police officer says, or it's a criminal offence. stand up, sit down, bend over, and give me Tantra sex position number 624. What's that? Sex in handcuffs. Well, actually, it's not actual sex in handcuffs. It's just, rubber-dub-dub sex in handcuffs. But it's quite similar. How do you do that in Tantra sex position? Well, you've got to put your hands out, let the officer put handcuffs on them, and let him rubber-dub-dub himself up against you. And then with a big smile on his face, and then he'll let you go. Wow, that's great. Yes. Consent to may accept and agree to Tantra sex position 3674. Yes. You're in the right place for this job. This is the thing. By the way, what's your gender? What sex question is not on this form? This is a bit weird. Well, someone must be getting a kick out of this. Someone seems to be enjoying this job, and it's not me. This is the thing. It's like the fucking Blue Oyster Bar, isn't it? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It's like with Harris. When you end up in the Blue Oyster Bar. The Blue Oyster cocktail bar. What's on the menu? Well. You got before you got to agree. You got to consent, submit, accept, and agree to the rules of the Blue Oyster Bar before you go into the Blue Oyster Bar. Once you've entered, you'll never leave. Until you've had a number 574. This is a thing. So anyway, all these policies on these websites, right, which aren't even the law, but they're getting you consent, submit, agree, accept. So it's brilliant. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, it's his metaverse. He's created a metaverse where you enter his world and you consent, submit, agree, and accept. And then that's it. Boom. It's like Beetlejuice. Boom. Say Beetlejuice 3 times. Consent, submit, accept. Boom. Now you're in the metaverse. Yes, it's Mark's world. Now Mark's in charge. Mark's law. It's Mark's law. Marxism. It's Marxism. It's the Marxist law of the universe. It's Facebook policy directives are in. It's like you're in the Matrix, isn't it? Now Mark can send his those officers. There's agents. Send those agents after you now because he's consented to submit and agreed. You're in the Matrix. It's Nero versus those agents because now you're under their authority. The authority. You're under the authority now, right? And no one voted for those laws. We all consented, submitted, and agreed to them, right? So, you're not electing no MPs, to make those laws, or anything. It's because all consent, submit, accept. So this is the thing. Now, the government, the actual government, Parliament, in England, are like, whoa, this is the best thing ever. Look at what Mark is doing. Look at that guy go. We like it. Look at this. Look at these people. Submit, consent, accept, agree. They didn't even fucking vote for him. And Mark's making up these laws and enacting them through fucking Facebook policy, giving royal assent of fucking the Supreme Emperor Nick Clegg of the planet Earth, Facebook, global president. You consent, you're giving royal assent to these laws like there's no tomorrow, like Facebook policies. And then everyone's like obeying. Look at this, look at these authoritarians, Look at that person, you just banned him from a group. Wow, look at the power there. But he didn't even break a group rule. Well, this is it. It's personal discretion of the jury. Well, it's not really a jury. It's an administrator. The administrator is always right, yeah? But I didn't break a group rule. What the fuck? I'm the administrator. I got the power buttons around here. Yes, but I read the group rules and I didn't break any of them, right? Well, this is a private group. You're banned, broken heart. Oh, mew, 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 mew. Oh, a broken heart. A little child's been run over. Everyone crowd round. Now I'm in the front of the newspaper. Oh, look, here's the newspaper reporter woman. Oh, drama queen. And here's the sad event of, this child's life has been taken from us, Oh, just a minute. Oh, sorry, I've got to go now. I'm clocking out in 10 minutes. Oh, sorry then. Bye-bye. Oh, look, there's the news reporter. She's just clocked off now. She's going home. Oh no, she's going to the cinema with her husband. What are you going to watch? The Terminator. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Now, oh look, let's I'm quite curious to see, what's going on in this cinema with this news reporter. She's gone off with her husband now to watch an entertainment film with her family. Oh look, they're watching a child get smashed up by a motorbike and run over in the cinema. Mew, mew. Oh, she seems to be enjoying it. Oh, that's a very good film. I quite enjoyed that. You're watching all the action. Oh, it's quite thrilling, yes. Oh, actually, I'm back on shift now. I'll just have to go to some real action. Oh, and now we have another cat's been run over again. Oh, it's tragic. Mew. By some lunatic racing around, whatever. This is the thing. Oh, it's so bad we can't have any of this anymore, and people have to look at it, people have to see and hear this on the television, and they're so upset, didn't see you upset at the fucking cinema when you're watching. Oh, well, it's just a bit of entertainment, isn't it? This is the thing. It's like it's some sadomasochist fucking cult or something, isn't it? It's like, queuing up to the movies to watch that. Well, it's only pretend. Well, they made it look real, though, didn't they? Yeah, well... didn't we make that that minor incident look really serious and important? We also had a bit of bullshit in there as well, and some lies, and a bit of screen angles, Well, actually, the child didn't get run over. In fact, we just exaggerated it. He just had a minor bruise and knock, and then, he had to go to the hospital and have a pot on, and then it took him a while to get better. So he didn't actually get killed then. Oh, no, actually, no, he didn't. Well, what we actually meant was that, they killed Kenny. It's like, he's the family were so shocked that they felt they could have died. Oh, they thought they could have died. She didn't actually die then this time. This is the thing. Whoa, there's a terrible news story. 50 people got killed in an airplane crash. Oh well, damn. Well, I'm off to watch a film now. What's that? Airplane. It's where 500 people get killed in an airplane crash. What is it with these people? There's something fucking wrong with them, isn't there? Anyway, so let's get back on track with this now, right? So we've got all these, the laws that the government like. Well, they're not laws, they're policies, right? So the government is basically like, Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, wow, look what Mark is doing with these platforms. He's getting people to submit and consent and accept in this metaverse, and they didn't even fucking have to vote for these laws. They're just voluntarily agreeing to them, and he gets to make them up, and then you can just any reason or no reason. This is the thing. So the government are like, wouldn't it be absolutely fantastic if we could run the government like that? Wouldn't that be fantastic? If we could just get them all to submit, consent, and accept to the new Marxism, Zuckerism, metaverse. And then we could just make up all these policies, and then they'd have to follow them, and we wouldn't even have to enact them, and they couldn't vote us out because we don't have any MPs, because Mark makes up all the rules. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And then we wouldn't have to even have any MPs. We could make it look like everyone's just voting themselves. But we need some people to guide them, we really need some people to guide them to decide what the rules, shouldn't be. Like Nigel Farage, we could have him, yes. We'll make him really popular and give him loads of social points, and then everyone will listen to him and follow him and think that he's giving good advice. Maybe we should have a programme called Talking Pints. That'll get him really famous. We'll have Priya Patel on, and a lot of football managers, and maybe Jim Davidson, the comedian, as well. He could go on there as well. People are like that, they'll follow him then, put their trust in this person. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? And then we could just sort of dissolve the government away and have these ridiculous assemblies which don't really mean anything or do anything, and then we could just have, Marxism. Yeah, we'll have to distinguish it from the real Marxism, though, because it was very dispopular. We could call it ZUCKERVERSE instead. Yeah, and then, basically we can then just, have very important people who are, decide what the law should be, kind of like news presenters, like morning TV chatcom women, like Rachel Reeves, Rachel Reeves has been going on a lot of morning TV chat shows recently, giving out rubbish advice, speaking to women who haven't got a clue what they're talking about really, or the law of England, or anything that's seriouser than women business, but, they're really important, and they should just, be on morning TV telling people what we should think is the status quo, Hey, look, this is our TV programme, and this is how you should live, because we think that it's cool, it's trending. Well, by the way, if we think it's cool, then everyone thinks it's cool. Just like when the BBC said, hey, why don't you all go on Facebook and make a profile? Hey, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll all go on Facebook and make a profile. Hey, look, it's Jeremy Vine. He's got some normal people on his programme. Hey, by the way, everyone in England, this is the new normal. This is what you do. This is your mum and your dad, and here's a cup of Starbucks coffee, and there's a donut. Why don't you do that? Hey, yeah, we'll do that. And by the way, there's your McDonald's, your Showcase Cinemas, and your Pound Stretcher, and this is for people who don't have any money, who are poor, but we're rich and we've got lots of money, and you should aspire to be like us because I've got really expensive sweater like Alan Titchmarsh and a roaring Christmas fire with lots of presents under the tree. Haven't I got lots of money? You should want to aspire to be like me, and then you might be able to be also like David Beckham and have lots of fans. And oh, look, you have got loads of fans now, by the way. Look, see, we made you all into megastars overnight. Now everyone's got a YouTube channel and you're all mega famous, but you better behave or Marxism's policy will get you. And remember, you've all submitted, consented and accepted. That's the deal. When you're in the metaverse, when you're in the Marxism world, you have to obey by the rules or the Matrix directive agents will come after you and get you, you naughty children. This is the thing. So but just a minute, where's the court? We don't have courts anymore. We don't have just judges, just like we don't have MPs. Now we've got Ofcom, or the Advertising Standards Authority, or we've got the Solicitors Regulation Authority. You could complain to one of those. Yes, but they've had 70,000 people complain and they've only just done something, Under the old school law, I could just gone down the Gumpter office, slap £50 on the table and gone, arrest that man, Mike Graham. And then he'd be sat in a cell all night until, the court opens in the morning and they can prosecute him, and then if I win, I get my £50 back, right? Done. Boom. See, I won. No, you can't have that. Mike Graham's far too important. He's a megastar. His social points are about 10 billion. You can't arrest him. He can do no wrong. He's like Tony Blair. He can walk on water. The only thing that could fall him from grace is if he touched a child's leg. And they'd have to be under the age of 7, for sure. Well, if Tony Blair touched a child's leg, then we'd have to do something about it. But obviously, all those other 70,000 complaints against the cunt were just being ignored, because he's far too famous to act against him. Like Keir Starmer. He's too important. He's Knight of the Realm. This is the thing. Smoke me kipper, I'll be back to China for more. Look, it's a Chinese social point system under complete and total agency control. Yes, they're the agents. There they are, the agents, agent 754715, this is the thing. Look, it's they all look like Baron Grade. Look at all Baron Grade copies walking around with some. Oh, look, it's Nigel Farage. He's got sunglasses on as well. He's one of them. He's one of the agents. It's Agent Farage. Because they're all fucking Nigel Farage clones. Like walking around in the fucking Matrix. telling people how to behave, but yet you don't vote anymore because we don't need. Who needs to vote? You know, when we're under Marxism, you've consented, submitted, and accepted the Marxism policies of the world. This is the thing, you know. So you don't expect anyone to get anything done, you know, by simply going down to the police station and putting a bit of cash on the table when I'm not like you can have cash anymore. Hey, look, here's my card instead. Oh, it's a digital ID card. Yes, my digital ID card. But I'm sorry, you've been naughty. And remember, you didn't eat your breakfast the other day. So I'm sorry, you can't leave the house and you won't be able to get to the Gumpter office because you're not allowed to travel on the bus. But Mike Graham insulted me. He's done all this nasty homophobic stuff on the radio. Well, I'm sorry, you're not qualified to accuse people of crimes because, like what David Cameron said, you know, prisoners don't deserve the vote. You know, you're not allowed to report anyone for any offences because you're on the naughty chair. You know, if you up your social points a little bit, then you'll be able to report crimes. You might even be able to report something to Ofcom. You know, you might be able to join then 70,001 people with complaints. You know, and eventually, you know, it's like a petition to the government. Hey, look, if you get 70,000 people complaining about something, Ofcom might do something. You know, no, 10,000 complaints, and Ofcom will give you a reply. And if you get 100,000 complaints, then, you know, you might get a debate out of it. You know, the Culture, Media and fucking Sport Committee. This is the thing. You know, the metaverse is the new. You consent, submit, and accept to go into it, and then you're completely under the policy. You know, the Marxism policy. You know, the fucking agents fucking going around. You know, listening to what people are up to and everything. So, I think that Matrix film probably was part of the whole plan. You know, so. But this is a thing, you know, where they've already got everyone on. We are on social points now, and everyone loves it. They've got everyone hooked on it, and you know, there wasn't anything better to stoke it up and chuck wood on the fire, so to say, to get the flame burning than, you know, actually arguing and discussing the fucking issue, you know. Panic when everyone's going, you know, we're all too late, you already consented to me, you know, they've already done it, you know, I've got the fucking thing in my hand now, you know, you'll never walk into the wilderness again and be alone with you and God. It will always be the Agent X, you know, we're all going to have an Agent X fucking surgically fucking attached to us, because you can't actually, you know, you can't go on holiday to Budapest and go on a computer in a library because if you don't have your phone with you, because then you won't be able to log into any of your accounts unless you have your little digital ID key, you know, thing, you know. So this is the thing, you know, they've already got us with it, because, you know, I don't really see anyone putting these things down. I don't think you can now, because while we've got this dilemma on that they're wanting to draw it out for another 20 years at least, you know, you're going to be fighting this thing. I think that's the thing. To fight this, you need the tool, the device, right, to try and fight it. But we're not going to win, because they own the fucking devices, they own the policies, and they've got the agents they've got an agent on everyone now, right? So I can't see us winning. And they've even got all the adverts winding us the fuck up and changing the menus around, dicking around with everything, you know, slowing us down, you know, whatever. Only and you know, and then there's some people living in the elite world. Hey, look, I like this metaverse. I've got millions and zillions of worshippers and fans. It's my biggest dream. It's my dream come true. You know, there's nothing I wanted ever in the whole wide world more than this. I've got my own TV show now, like just from my house at home, and I've got millions and zillions of fans worshipping me, sending me presents in and all kinds of stuff, you know, on my fucking Amazon wish list or whatever, buy me shit off my Amazon wish list. You know, you shall be adored, you know, whatever. But this is when people like those type of people get control of planet Earth, and they think, hey, this is great, everyone should be like this, you know, everyone should want this. No, actually, I just wanted, you know, a bunch of cool friends and go out and do stuff, right, you know, and now everyone in the whole fucking planet has got to be, you know, I'm a fucking celebrity, get me out of here type of thing, in order to try and do something about this, and what everyone has to become something that they never wanted to do or planned to do in order to try and fight against it, and a fight which they're never going to fucking win, because I think we've already lost, you know. In fact, you know, what's the big surprise? You know, they've been tapping phone lines since, you know, before they had the fucking, you know, cable, you know. Oh, look, there's a pigeon flying over there with a secret message around its neck. You know, it's like, they've been fucking, you know, we've had a fucking agent on us, you know, since, you know, they've had fucking, you know, they've had pigeons on us since fucking Pigeon Street. This is the thing. So, you know, it's just more distraction, isn't it? So, these non-department governmental agencies are absolute fucking bollocks. What the fuck are they doing with them? It is purposeless, right? You would have thought that now they've got Ofcom, you know, sorting out all the TV, which they're not sorting it out, and the ASA doing adverts, which were on the TV as well, and the Electoral Commission, you know, and the SRA or whatever, you would have thought that the police would have had enough of a workload taken off them to actually, you know, bring the crime levels down, but now they're actually still going up because they're actually pouring more crime in here on purpose to say, oh, look, this crime, you need to buy more security gates and security windows, and we need to put more fences around the schools, you know? So it actually is absolutely bonkers. And I've, you know, there's a lot of people talking about, you know, digital prison, like they've got this term, digital prison, but you don't actually, they're taking the law away from us. They've already removed financial access to law, to civil law, right? I mean, if there was any financial access to civil law, I would have been fucking using it in the last 10 years since 2019. I haven't been able to get anything done. When you're ringing them up, it's, oh no, it's like, we haven't got the capacity, Fuck off, you lying bastards, right? You know? It's just bollocks. Some people are getting things done, but they're not even getting the right things done. And I have actually engaged on 3 occasions with 3 different. I did get to speak to solicitors, helping some other people, and at one point they ended up with 3 different solicitors on the same case. On like they had like there was like 4 or 5 defendants, but then they had 3 different solicitors working at the same time on the same fucking case. You know, they were all claiming money from it, and none of them would actually claim the right that was in effect. And, you know, some of them just weren't competent, not educated properly. Others were, you know, completely and totally opposed to it and blatantly refused to do it, even though I explained it in great detail. And, you know, the Solicitor Regulation Authority are an absolute waste of space, you know. We're being absolutely and completely, utterly, not only ripped, well, if you're a fool, then you know, if you're foolish enough to get ripped off by these people, and if you can afford to get ripped off by these people, you've done well. And most people can't and don't get any help at all, you know, unless you've been, you know, a severe victim of a very tragic and misfortunate crime, you know, which is, you know, quite violent and physical. Otherwise, the police aren't going to do it unless they're, you know, chasing around fucking Paul Golding in his party political van, which is meant to be fucking protected and privileged, right? Because, you know, he's a substantial opposition to Keir Starmer. This is the thing. So the police definitely now, and then when you ring the police up, it's like, oh no, we can't do anything because you're not a victim. You're not a victim, so we can't do anything. Well, I'm like, yeah, but what about when you're sat there at the side of the road with a police van catching speeding drivers, right? And where's the victim? Oh, well, that's different. We're making a hell of a lot of money out of that, fines. But it's a clear road. There's no victim. How can you do anything about it? This is the thing. I saw Madeleine McCann the other day. Do you want to do anything about that? No, well, you're not the victim, so we can't do anything. Yeah, but I could solve your Madeleine McCann mystery. They've been wanting to solve that mystery for years. They've even sent a whole team abroad. I saw her the other day. I could just tell you where she is. Yes, but I'm sorry, but I wouldn't be able to do anything about that because you're not the victim. I can't act. Well, it's like 101 Dalmatians. This. Why don't you Why don't you have the phone number for the police? 101. We have. Well, that means something, doesn't it? Yes, it means that, the odd spot of bother and we're on the case. But, the majority of them, we're not. This is the thing. 70,000 people later, we'll do something. This is the thing. What is actually, if the police were under pay-per job, whereas there was no police funding, right? Unless, they do a job and then they get paid when they do that job, then we might actually get something done, and then they wouldn't waste all this money in between them just fucking about doing what the fuck they want, sitting on the side of the road, raising funds, crowdfunding, police crowdfunding at the side of the road, easy come, easy go. This is the thing. Like to the police station, slap 50 quid on the table and actually get a job done, get GB News fined or whatever done. Hey, look, I just saved Ofcom the entire job, we just saved them processing 70,000 complaints, I just, there's like Mike Graham being homophobic, get straight down the Gumpter office, get 50 quid on the table, boom, where's fucking William Hill, bang, Mike Graham, boom, this is the thing. These departments are an absolute, complete waste of money. They've taken all our powers off us, all our rights, and given it all to these administrative departments who are all under absolute policy. So, like, we're not going to do sweet FA, right? Unless you get 100,000 signatures or 100,000 complaints. It's like fucking e-petitions, right? Mike Graham's been homophobic. Well, if you get 100,000 signatures, we might do something about it. This is the thing. This is bullshit. This is like, we don't have any power. This is like being on Facebook and trying to complain and get Facebook to do something, but... and at the end of the day, they don't want us to have even the administrative power over people higher up in the ranks, because then, you can't have unimportant people having the power to... This is why, MPs weren't allowed to be arrested. This is where parliamentary privilege originates from, because, people were going and getting the MPs arrested if they owed them money or whatever when they had to go to Parliament, right? And they're far too important. But they put a stop to that, right? They banned arrest on civil process. It's a little bit like that. It's like, oh no, Nigel Farage is far too important, we know that he's completely cheated the election rules. We're talking pints, but he's really important. He's just an important person, and we've got this new plan for this new party, and we couldn't give a tiddlywinks monkey's fuck if he broke the law or not. How do you think we got him famous? We've got to at least get some pretend legitimacy here. We've actually got them we've got to get them to turn up at the polling station and vote. We've actually got to go through the motions, even though, it was totally completely rigged up and set up for him to be famous, because we allowed him to continue. This is the thing. But by the time we've finished, when you fully immersed yourself in the Marxism verse, you'll be under the policy. The policy, the authority, and then, if you want anything done, you'll have to get 100,000 signatures, 70,000 fucking complaints, to Ofcom, or they're not going to do sweet FA. It's like, not like I could do it yourself, like you've got any skills, it's not like you've got any talents or skills. I'm like, well, I could do, I've actually got the video of him doing it. I could have just, walked down to the company's office, put the video on the table, got a decent solicitor. Oh, yeah, I can use that 50 quid, bang, doop, done, But, what? Why spend 50 quid on a fucking Crown prosecutor in a gumpter when you can get Ofcom to sit there, and processing 70,000 fucking complaints for 6 fucking months, Hey, look, on average, we worked out that Ofcom's statistical record is going up by 7.372. I am the weatherman. There has been some complaints over the last 16 months. Your triple score 7 grading has gone up to 70,000.75, Mr. Graham. We'll have to take action against you because you passed the threshold. It's like, hey, look, it's Jimmy Savile. He just touched a child's leg. Oh, that's a big one. That's the equivalent to 10,000 complaints all in one. If he touches another 3 children's legs, then he's in a quick way to the 100,000, and I have to touch 10 child's legs to get the equivalent of 100,000 signatures. You get 10,000 signatures for touching 1 child's leg. This is that's a high rating one, that one. This is it, what... Can you actually this is where the taxes, all going up and, company's house prices has doubled and all this. I can't believe they're actually getting away with building these departments and running them and taking the money off us and having these people employed there. It's like the Senate, It's absolute, utter waste of time, right? They weren't allowed to make any new privileges, right? But yet they've created all these, MS Senate members in a Welsh Parliament with Welsh parliamentary privilege. Hey, there's a new privilege that never existed before. This is the thing. And how much does it cost to run that place? Oh, about £28 billion. This is the thing. Whoa. Actually, just a minute, if there wasn't Ofcom, if there wasn't the, Advertising Standards Authority, just a minute, I could do that. I've got a mobile phone, I can record some evidence. In fact, I've got the fucking evidence of the show here. All I need is a damn good lawyer, Just think, if I had a damn good lawyer, that complaint I've got about that bloody advertisement, we could go into court on Tuesday the 15th, and boom, done. If he wasn't charging me, £20,000, what we need is Joylan Morham. Yes, Joylan. Yes, I'm pro bono. I'll do it for free. Wow, as long as you're transsexual. Sorry, we don't do free law for straight people. We only serve homophobic people around here, because they're greatly in need. They're very upset and troubled at the moment, and we need to cheer them up and give them some free lawyers. Well, why don't you try and just prosecute the government for completely and totally undermining the entire constitution of the United Kingdom, and trying to take us into this new policy-driven Marxism verse, which they're forcing us to consent, submit and accept to, or we can't have the little toy we've got in our hand, which is the digital ID. In fact, by making the digital ID taste like candy, and it's Candy Crush, I can't put it down. I watch YouTube videos all day, Yes, you want it, don't you? This is the thing. So they blurred all the porn out now, so it's no fun anymore. This is the thing. Consent to accept the digital ID card. No, I won't. I will not accept consent and submit the digital ID card. This is not a digital ID card. It is when Keir Starmer puts it through government and says, hey, now we've got digital ID. By the way, didn't we tell you your phone's a digital identity? Oh, sorry, it slipped my mind. I didn't tell you, did I? Oh, I never saw that one come in, Mr. Starmer. Yes, now... Oh, we forgot to tell you that you've already consented, submitted, and accepted to all its policies. And did you know that Mark Zuckerberg has updated policy clause 643274 to say that once you're in the Marxism verse, you will never leave? See, it's like, it's, and this is why they're advertising on the parliamentary website, all these platforms, they're advertising X, they're advertising Facebook, they're advertising YouTube, they're at, maybe not YouTube, but Blue Sky, right? And I'm like, hey, this is funny. It's Parliament's website. Why are they advertising all these platforms and companies? What about all the platforms and companies that people don't know about, that might not have all these stupid policies in place, which we might prefer to go on without these ridiculous rules, and they could get really popular and, outcompete the other ones? Oh, no, we can't have that happening. That wouldn't be with the plan, would it, for the Marxism verse? Where's Nick Clegg, the global president of the Marxism verse? Nick's left now. He's gone on holiday to Fiji, This is the thing. Why is Parliament not advertising these, smaller platforms like Rumble, or, ones that don't have crap adverts that are pushed on us all the time, or Consent Submit Accept, Hey, look, there's a great new platform here. There's no adverts on it. You don't have to consent, submit, and accept anything. And, there aren't loads of ridiculous policies. Is actually better than YouTube. Hey, if I'd have known about this, I would have used that instead, But Parliament never told me about that one, neither did the BBC. How is it that only these very small number of platforms are getting all the publicity? I don't know, it's very strange, isn't it? There's never been as many music artists ever in the history of the world. More music artists than have ever existed before. Go on Bandcamp, just thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people making music, right? We got all kinds of music. Look at these creativity. Hey, that's strange. Where are all the different platforms? If there's so much creativity, where are all the different platforms? Facebook, Wastebook, Gacebook, Zacebook, Zackbook, Jackbook, Rackbook, Tackbook, Notebook, Scrapbook, Twatbook. Where are all the other platforms? That's strange. I don't find them all. If it's never been as more creative and there've never been as many ideas ever, where are all the other platforms? Where are the ones that don't have policies? Where are the ones that don't have ads? Where are the ones that are free? Where are the ones that the government are planning to take over the whole planet with and introduce digital identity on, like Facebook? That's strange. Don't you think that's quite odd and peculiar? And now there's no money in music anyway. Now everyone's doing it. It's like, hey, look, I uploaded a track to YouTube and now I'm a multi-billionaire. It's not like the BBC told everyone about it and everyone fucking downloaded it and then I got £1 zillion and now I've got more money than Mr. Beast, is it? This is a thing. It's, I think, like, what they've done with China with the social points thing, that they've got the whole, they've got that going, right? They did it. And then our part was the, like, social point system bit that we all fell for because, everyone in England's a sucker for being a fucking morning TV presenter, And then the Russia, they've got them all with the sort of, like, ridiculous kind of, like, don't take the piss out of Putin or whatever, this, like, regime, fuck knows what aspect of it. And then, put it all together, what the Americans got? Well, they've got, free speech when you haven't got free speech. The delusion. The delusion, hey, this food's healthy. Yeah, right. Hey, look, it's only, USA. This is the thing. The Americans are living the dream. Well, it's a dream. You must be fucking dreaming if you think you got free speech. That Section 230 took away free speech in fucking 1997, right? Or 1996. Americans lost their free speech on the internet, which is the latest form of modern technology and now the main form of communication in America, right? It's like the main, the one, the only, the main prime method of communication in America has no free speech, particularly not if it's following the federal law, because, Section 230 up your fucking ass. This is the thing. Americans lost free speech in 1997 when Bill Clinton stuck a cigar up fucking Monica Lewinsky's vagina and said, "Smoke me a kipper, I'll be back for breakfast." This is the thing, but they're living the dream. Hey, we're just dreaming, California dreaming. Hey, we got free speech. Wake up from the dream. We got free speech. Yeah, right. Not on the internet, you don't. No, not in the Marxist verse. Consent, submit, and accept. The Marxist verse. It's like fucking Neo, like trying to wake these Americans up from the fucking Neo dream. It's like, hey, you don't have free speech anymore, unless you manage to be like, fuck knows how Jimmy Dore is managing to do his show, and he's been going on so long. Jimmy Dore seems to get away with, what most people don't on YouTube. He seems to say what the fuck he wants. So, it's the metaverse is actually the policy, the new policy universe. It's a policy-based administrative universe where you consent, some, and accept. And once you have, then, they update the system. And you cannot go back because, once you accept once you need the device, then all your stuff's on it. And then if you can't, unless somebody comes up, you really have to, someone needs to invent something that's not this kind of like adware, policy-driven, spyware bullshit. And then almost like some kind of first aid device, a little bit like that. So there's an American soldier came up with his own mobile phone. His own mobile phone is meant to be hack-proof or whatever. Something kind of like that, which you can plug your phone into, and it takes all your stuff off your phone and doesn't lose it all, and removes. It's like it needs to be a special legal move, right? You need to invent this company that's got this policy which says that any customer who accepts our policy will accept to have our policy applied to all of their accounts on all of their devices and equipment. And then once you agree to it, you agree to the device, effectively doing like scammer payback and actually modifying all of your user accounts with all of these platforms so that they're no longer spying and trojaning you anymore or giving you crap adverts. And then it almost kind of like does this kind of like filter thing, and legally you accepted the policy, so you legally give it permission to override all the policies of Mark Zuckerberg. And it wouldn't it be great if you could charge them for being on your device from that point on, right? So it's just like, and then wouldn't it be great if it sent like all of the headquarters like a message saying, if you continue, this user, if you want your user to continue using your service, it's, £5, we charge them, right? So then you're actually charging Facebook and YouTube for having the privilege of having you as their member, right? So it's like, oh, I've got a new policy for me, It's like if I'm so cool that I'm a member of Facebook because I'm so cool. It's £10 a minute for me to be a member, right? And they say, well, because that's my policy. It's my law, right? On my device says, we say you're popular. No. You don't say I'm popular. I'm the cool guy, I am popular because I say so. And if you want me on your platform, it's £10, right? An hour. So and then they said, oh, well, fuck you, we'll kick you off then. We said, right, fuck you then. So okay then, because I'm on Zuckerberg now, whatever. In the new platform, which does not do all this bullshit. But this is the thing. Notice that none of them have been appearing. Why is that? And that is because these little monkeys are well in on it. Zuckerberg, even Musk, they're all in on this kind of like, hey, we're doing this thing with the government where, planning for digital identity, tracking, satellites, fucking Starlink, boom, 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 you know. Do you get the picture? Yes, we get the picture. A new administrative world where people don't vote for the laws. You know, they make them up and we submit consent and accept to them. And, you know, we don't need to report anything to the police. Why would we need to go around to the police Gumter office? We know what you are doing. We know what you're saying. We know where you've been. So it's like, don't call us, we'll call you. Why would you ever need to go to the police and report anything, right, when your phone's listening to absolutely every fucking thing you say or do, like in Scotland in your own house where you can't say what you want, and if you say anything wrong, they'll send a fucking drone round, right? Or just not let you go out or give you social points because you can't do anything, right? You will behave. Which is definitely what they're planning. And that is just absolutely fucking insane. And if Tony Blair thought that that was a good idea, right, then yes, I mean, you effectively won't need the police, right? And it would be all these agencies. I mean, how many agencies have they got? Can you believe that we still even have or need the police? Because all these Ofcom, you know, all these Advertising Standards Authority, Solicitors Regulation Authority, you know, Electoral Commission, all these fucking agencies specialising in everything under the sun, right? How is the police even there? You know, are they just the brute squad now, running around, you know, chasing the ruffians on the streets? But you know, they're bringing in that many ridiculous, insane new laws now, like you're not allowed to fucking sneeze on someone or whatever the fuck it is, you know. That all those human rights directives, European Convention of Human Rights, they can't have those if for their plan to work, because you can't, you know, when they're, you know, do all this abortion and assisted suicide, then you're taking away the right to life, right? And then by the time they've had all these prayers and religious things not allowed to do, then the new right to your religion is gone. And then, you know, by the time they're doing all these, like, you know, you can't say this or that in your own house, like in Scotland, then your free speech is gone. So those European Union directives, like I said in another video, that was Tony Blair's bucket list of things to get rid of, because you can't have this kind of like surveillance automated smartphone agent which is automatically going to fuck you for all these new offences they're bringing in, because you don't have any right to privacy, you don't have any right to actually be able to do anything that the government doesn't know about or isn't privy to. You know, you definitely don't have the right to privacy. It's like permanent 24-hour Trojan spying, stalking, I would say even. And then, you know, when they start recruiting and headhunting for certain people they want on their team, then you can start getting and stalking and setting things up, you know, like put a certain person to be in the right place at the right time, you know, and all this type of bullshit when they can, you know, time what people, who goes where, with who, and when, and you're just getting a produced civilization. It's fully produced and directed life. That's what it is. It's like a movie directed, fully produced reality. And when you've got a fully produced reality, you know, you have a director and a producer, and, you know, things go how the director and producer want them to go because they're the director and he's the producer. And, you know, then you get into the point of producing humans, and then to decide whether they want males or females, you know, the right to a gender has got to be taken away. And this is why they've got to get rid of all those human rights, and why they've got to encourage people to want to change themselves, because they want to change us, right? And then they decide what type of humans we're going to make. They're going to have to be discriminative then, unless they're going to randomise it. But if they're going to randomise it, then, you know,